The Nasat fleet, an unstoppable force in the galaxy, descended upon Earth. From their mothership, Lord Murloc, a merciless commander, watched as his orders came to fruition. Death beams rained down from the sky, scorching cities to ash and vaporizing oceans. Billions of humans fell to their ruthless genocide. The once blue planet transformed into a hellscape of firestorms, with continents glowing like molten metal. Murloc's black eyes gleamed with malice as he observed the destruction. Skyscrapers collapsed under the bombardment, and forests ignited like torches in a hurricane. Disgusting vermin, he spat, relishing each moment of humanity's demise. He wanted no trace of their vile species left on this ravaged world. As the last vestiges of humanity perished in agony, their civilization reduced to smoldering ruins, Murloc felt a twisted sense of victory. But deep beneath the Arctic ice, hidden from the Nasat's gaze, lay a secret chamber. Inside, cryogenic pods hummed with power. Within these armored cocoons, 5,000 biologically enhanced human super soldiers slept in frozen animation, a last-ditch safeguard for humanity's survival. The base's central AI detected the imminent threat, triggering a revival protocol. With a crack, the pods opened, releasing a billowing vapor. Darren Wilson emerged from cryosleep, a hardened Special Forces veteran. His body was encased in cybernetic battle armor, and his heart pounded with rage as he stared at the monitors showing Earth in flames. No mercy, no survivors, only extinction, he whispered, feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders. Darren grabbed a pulse rifle, its hum resonating in his ears. The only option left was vengeance. Rise and shine, Alpha Squad, he growled into the comms. It's time to show these alien bastards what it means to mess with the human race. One by one, his comrades stirred from their pods, their eyes flaring open with determination. These were not just soldiers, they were humanity's last hope, genetically modified warriors augmented with alien DNA and nanotech. They inhaled in unison, muscles coiling, fists curling. Avengers had awakened. Darren stalked through the cryo chamber, pulse rifle in hand. The A's calm voice echoed through the room, delivering the grim situation report. Earth's military forces have been decimated. Nasat ground troops are conducting sweeps to eliminate any remaining survivors. Satellite feeds flashed across the screens, displaying scenes of unimaginable carnage. The Nasat death squads marched through the ruins, their scanners pulsing as they searched for signs of life. Darren's grip tightened on his rifle, watching the slaughter unfold. These men and women surrounding him were Earth's last hope, the pinnacle of human evolution, crafted for one purpose: war. Each super soldier was a walking arsenal. They could run faster, jump higher, and hit harder than any unaugmented human. Neural implants gave them lightning-fast reflexes and instant access to a library of combat tactics. But now they looked lost, confused, still processing the magnitude of the destruction wrought upon their world. Darren knew he had to give them purpose. "Listen up, Alpha Squad," he called, his voice booming. "The Nasat have taken our planet. They've slaughtered our species. But they made one mistake. They left us alive." Glances were exchanged among the assembled soldiers. Some looked uncertain, while others hardened with the first embers of rage. "We are Project Hercules, the finest warriors humanity ever created, and we have a new mission," he continued, displaying a holographic projection of Earth, red dots indicating Nasat positions swarming the planet's surface. "We're going to strike back against these alien bastards. We're going to find any human survivors and bring them to safety. And most importantly," Darren's eyes flashed with barely contained fury, "we're going to make the Nasat pay for what they've done. We're going to show them the true meaning of vengeance." A roar of approval swept through the soldiers, their doubts vanishing. They pounded their fists against their chests, echoing a battle cry through the base. There would be a reckoning. The Nasat had sown the wind, now they would reap the whirlwind. The super soldiers sprang into action, storming the armory with ruthless efficiency. They armed themselves with advanced weaponry, plasma rifles that could melt through NASAT armor like butter, exoskeletons that enhanced their superhuman strength, and portable energy shields to deflect incoming fire. Alpha Squad, you're with me. We're going to hit that NASAT command post hard and fast. I want intel on their troop movements, their supply lines, anything that can give us an edge, Darren commanded. Bravo Squad, your job is to sabotage that infrastructure, blow up their generators, collapse their tunnels, whatever it takes to slow them down. Charlie Squad, we've got civilians out there. Find them, protect them, and bring them back alive. And Delta Squad, he paused, locking eyes with the tech heads. I need you to infiltrate NASAT comms. Intercept their transmissions and jam their signals. Make them think they're hearing the voice of their own god, if that's what it takes. The super soldiers nodded, their expressions grim but determined. They understood what was at stake. The fate of their species hung in the balance. Suddenly, an alarm blared through the base. Alert. Incoming NASAT patrol detected. Estimated time of arrival, 2 minutes, the A's voice echoed. Darren cursed under his breath. The cryopods must have given off an energy signature when they activated. It was like sending up a flare for the NASAT to follow. But then a slow grin spread across his face. This was their chance to send a message, to show the NASAT that humanity would not go gentle into that good night. All right, people, you heard the lady. We've got company coming. Let's give them a warm welcome. The super soldiers moved with practiced precision, taking up defensive positions around the base's entrance. They crouched behind hastily erected barricades, weapons primed and ready. The air hummed with the charge of their energy shields, a faint blue glow emanating from each soldier. Darren took point, plasma rifle nestled against his shoulder. His enhanced vision picked out the heat signatures of the approaching NASAT, forms blazing red against the cool blue of the Arctic landscape. Steady, he murmured. Let them get in close. We want to look them in the eye when we send them to hell. The ground trembled as the NASAT patrol drew nearer. Their heavy footfalls shook loose pebbles from the base's ceiling. The soldiers gripped their weapons, fingers hovering over triggers. With a roar that shook the very foundations of the earth, the NASAT burst through the entrance. They were hulking brutes, their bodies encased in thick, vicious armor. Darren's lips peeled back in a snarl. Open fire. The base erupted into a maelstrom of plasma fire and searing energy beams. The NASAT's armor melted under the onslaught, their flesh bubbling and slowing away. They screamed in agony, a sound that was music to the super soldiers' ears. But the NASAT did not fall easily. They returned fire with their own weapons, lances of searing light that cut through the air like scalpels. The super soldiers dove for cover, enhanced reflexes, allowing them to evade the deadly light. Darren surged forward, his rifle spitting plasma at the NASAT soldiers. One fell, then another, their heads snapping back as the bolts found their mark. He could feel the heat of the plasma as it passed inches from his face, but he didn't flinch. This was what he was made for. As the battle raged on, Darren knew that this was just the beginning. The NASAT had awakened a fury in humanity that had long been dormant, and now the super soldiers were ready to unleash it. As the dust settled from the brutal confrontation, the Arctic base lay eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos that had just unfolded. The last remnants of the NASAT patrol were strewn across the entrance, the floor slick with the remnants of alien ichor and the scent of scorched metal hanging heavy in the air. Darren Wilson, flanked by his fellow super soldiers, stood at the ready, their senses heightened, adrenaline still coursing through their enhanced bodies. This was only the beginning, a small skirmish in what would become a war for survival. The base's AI, with its calm, mechanical voice, broke the silence. Status report: NASAT patrol eliminated. No additional contacts detected at this time. Power levels stable. All systems functional. The A's tone was devoid of emotion, but the soldiers could feel the tension hanging in the air. They had won this battle, but the war loomed large, and every moment counted. Stay alert, Darren commanded, his voice steady despite the lingering excitement of the fight. "This was a minor patrol. The main force is still out there, and they'll be looking for us." His eyes scanned the darkened hallways, the shadows concealing potential threats. The soldiers nodded, readying themselves for the next phase of their mission. Darren motioned for his squad to regroup in the command center. "We need to strategize. We can't just run in blindly. We have to hit them where it hurts." The soldiers gathered around the holographic display, its glow illuminating their faces, casting flickering shadows that danced like ghosts across the walls. The AI projected a map of Earth, marked with red dots indicating NASAT troop concentrations. Analysis indicates that the largest NASAT encampment is located near what remains of New York City. Reports suggest they are consolidating their forces for a major offensive. If we strike there, we may disrupt their plans significantly. Darren's gaze hardened as he absorbed the information. New York had been a vibrant metropolis, a symbol of humanity's resilience, now reduced to ruins by the merciless onslaught of the NASAT. We can't allow them to regroup. If we hit them hard and fast, we might turn the tide. We'll take Alpha Squad and go in under the cover of darkness." "Sir," one of the soldiers, a young woman named Elise, interjected, her voice steady. "What about civilian survivors? We should prioritize their rescue." "Agreed," Darren replied. "Bravo Squad can take care of that. We need eyes on the ground to find any remaining humans. If we can extract them, we can build our numbers and reinforce our positions." Elise's eyes glinted with determination. "I'll take charge of Bravo Squad. We'll find any survivors and bring them back." "Good," Darren said, feeling a swell of pride for his team. "Charlie Squad, you're with me. We'll hit the NASAT command post and gather intel. Delta Squad, focus on intercepting their communications. We need to sow confusion among their ranks." With their roles assigned, the super soldiers sprang into action, their movements fluid and precise. They checked their gear, ensuring weapons were charged and armor was secured. The camaraderie among them was palpable. They were not just soldiers, but a family forged in the fires of war. "Let's move," Darren commanded, his voice resolute as they made their way to the armory. The clang of their boots echoed in the corridor, a rhythmic reminder of their purpose. As they entered the armory, the walls lined with advanced weaponry and gear came into view. They grabbed plasma rifles, energy shields, and grenades, preparing for the battle ahead. "Stay focused," Darren reminded them as they equipped themselves. "We've trained for this moment. Trust in your abilities and trust each other. We are the pinnacle of humanity. We will not falter." With their spirits lifted, the team exited the base and stepped into the frigid Arctic air. The icy winds whipped against their faces, but they welcomed the chill, invigorating their resolve. They moved in formation, the snow crunching beneath their feet, a silent testament to the grave purpose of their mission. As they approached the outskirts of what was once New York City, the devastation became apparent. Skyscrapers, once symbols of human achievement, now lay in ruins, skeletal remains against the horizon. Fires flickered in the distance, casting a hellish glow that illuminated the darkened landscape. The air was thick with the stench of smoke and decay, a graveyard for humanity's dreams. Darren signaled for his squad to halt, their eyes scanning the horizon for any signs of life or death. "Charlie Squad, take point. We'll move in silent. Elise, get Bravo Squad ready for extraction if we find survivors." The team advanced cautiously, slipping through the shadows, their movements calculated and precise. They utilized the debris as cover, creeping closer to the heart of the NASAT encampment. The NASAT forces were numerous, their hulking forms patrolling the area, scanning for any signs of the remaining humans. The atmosphere crackled with tension, the silence almost deafening. As they drew nearer, Darren peered through the scope of his plasma rifle, his enhanced vision locking onto a NASAT soldier. The alien's grotesque features were twisted in concentration, its eyes scanning the ruins. A flicker of movement caught Darren's attention, a group of survivors huddled beneath the wreckage of a fallen building. Hope surged within him, quickly followed by the urgency of their situation. "Bravo, squad, we have civilians," Darren whispered urgently into the comms. "We're moving in to extract them. Stay sharp." The squad maneuvered through the debris, their breaths synchronized with the thrum of adrenaline in their veins. They crept closer, crouching low to remain undetected. Darren could see the fear etched on the survivors' faces, their bodies trembling in the cold, unsure if help was on the way. "On my mark," Darren murmured, watching as the Nasset turned away, giving them a precious moment of opportunity. 3, 2, 1, now. With practiced precision, the super soldiers surged forward, weapons drawn, emerging from the shadows like specters of vengeance. The Nasat soldier, caught off guard, barely had time to react before the squad opened fire, plasma bolts slicing through the air with deadly accuracy. The Nasat crumpled to the ground, and the survivors looked up in shock, their eyes wide with disbelief. "We're here to help," Elise shouted, her voice ringing with assurance as she rushed to their side. "Follow us, we'll get you to safety." The civilians, overwhelmed by the chaos of battle and the sudden appearance of their saviors, hesitated for a moment before nodding in understanding. They followed Elise, their faces a mixture of fear and hope as they darted through the wreckage. "Stay close," Darren called out, covering their retreat as more Nasat soldiers began to converge on their position. The air was filled with the sound of plasma fire, a symphony of destruction as they fought to protect the innocent. Each shot they fired was a promise, a vow that they would avenge those who had fallen. As they reached a safer area, Darren turned to Elise. "Get them to the extraction point. Bravo Squad will secure the area while we gather intel on the Nasat's movements." He felt the weight of leadership settle on his shoulders, but he welcomed the burden. This was their purpose. "Be careful, Darren," Elise urged, her voice laced with concern. "We can't afford to lose you now." He nodded, a reassuring smile on his face. "I'll be back. Trust in our strength." With a final glance at the civilians, Darren and Charlie's squad pressed forward, moving deeper into the heart of the Nasat encampment, determined to uncover their enemies' plans. As they maneuvered through the ruins, the world around them became a haunting tapestry of destruction. Each corner they turned revealed the aftermath of a brutal campaign: broken buildings, shattered lives, and the lingering echoes of humanity's struggle against a relentless foe. Yet amid the desolation, a fire burned within Darren and his comrades, a fire that could not be extinguished. They reached a vantage point overlooking a large Nasat command post, a sprawling complex buzzing with activity. Nasat soldiers moved in disciplined formations, their presence a stark reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. "This is it," Darren whispered, scanning the area for any weaknesses. "Looks like they're coordinating their next offensive," one of his teammates remarked, pointing to a holographic display that flickered ominously in the command center. "We need to get a closer look." With a series of hand signals, Darren directed his squad to take up strategic positions. They moved swiftly and quietly, the training they had received kicking into high gear. As they approached, they could hear the guttural voices of the Nasat, discussing their plans to eradicate the last remnants of humanity. Each word was like a dagger, sharpening their resolve to strike back. "Prepare for intel extraction," Darren ordered, crouching behind a pile of debris. "We need to know how many forces they have and what their next target is." The squad nodded, readying their weapons as they moved in closer. Darren's heart raced as he felt the weight of their mission pressing upon him. This was not just about survival, it was about reclaiming their world, about fighting back against the darkness that threatened to consume them. As they infiltrated the command post, Darren felt a surge of determination. They had been awakened for this moment, to protect humanity, to show the Nasat that they would not go down without a fight. The soldiers moved with a fluidity that belied their enhanced abilities, slipping past guards and weaving through tight spaces until they reached the central control room. The room buzzed with activity, screens displaying various feeds of the surrounding areas. The Nasat commander, a towering figure with piercing eyes, barked orders, the tension in the air palpable. Darren knew they had to act quickly. "On my mark," he whispered to his squad, his pulse quickening as he prepared for the next move. They waited, every second stretching into eternity, until the commander turned his back, engrossed in a conversation. "Now," Darren shouted, and they sprang into action. Plasma rifles blazed to life, bright arcs of energy illuminating the darkened room as they fired at the unsuspecting Nasat soldiers. The surprise attack sent the Nasat into a frenzy, and chaos erupted as the super soldiers stormed the command center. Darren's heart raced, each pulse a reminder of their mission. They fought with a ferocity that ignited their spirits, knowing they were fighting not just for themselves, but for all of humanity. As the last of the Nasat soldiers fell, Darren moved swiftly to the main console, fingers flying across the controls as he accessed the intelligence stored within. His mind raced as he absorbed the information, the number of Nasat troops, their armament, and the plans for a full-scale invasion of what was left of civilization. "Got it," he exclaimed, relaying the information to his squad. "We need to relay this back to base. They'll need to prepare for the Nasat's next move." But before they could celebrate a small victory, an alarm blared, cutting through the chaos. Red lights flashed, and the Nasat's automated defenses powered up, targeting the intruders with lethal intent. "We need to get out of here, now," Darren shouted, urgency coursing through his veins. As they raced through the command center, the sound of explosions echoed behind them, the building trembling as the Nasat scrambled to respond to the breach. "Cover our escape," Darren commanded, leading his squad through the chaos as they fought their way back to the exit. Outside, the night sky was illuminated by the glow of fires raging in the city. The survivors, huddled in makeshift shelters, looked up in awe as the super soldiers emerged from the command post, determined to secure their escape. The moment was surreal, a bittersweet victory amid the ruins of their world. "Bravo, squad, we're coming back." Alessi's voice rang out as she led the civilians toward them, a look of determination etched across her face. The civilians followed closely behind, their eyes filled with a mix of hope and uncertainty. Darren felt a swell of pride for his team, knowing they had done something remarkable. They had fought back against the darkness and brought hope to those who had nearly lost everything. "Move. We have to get to the extraction point," Darren urged, his voice resolute as they regrouped. "We need to hold the line until we can get everyone out." As they made their way through the rubble, a sense of urgency filled the air. The Nasat would not let them escape easily. They would retaliate, and Darren could feel it in the pit of his stomach. But they had to keep fighting, keep pushing forward. They had people to save, lives to protect, and a war to win. As they reached the extraction point, the sound of distant gunfire echoed around them. The Nasat were closing in, desperate to crush the last vestiges of resistance. "Keep moving," Darren shouted, positioning himself at the front, plasma rifle raised and ready. The extraction team, a handful of soldiers sent to secure their escape route, was already engaged in battle, fending off the advancing Nasat forces. The tension was palpable as the two sides clashed, the air thick with the scent of smoke and burning metal. "Hold the line," Darren roared, determination fueling his every movement. "We will not let them take us down." With fierce determination, the super soldiers engaged the Nasat forces, their enhanced abilities giving them an edge. Each shot fired was a testament to their resolve, a declaration that humanity would not be extinguished. Amidst the chaos, Darren caught sight of Elise, leading the civilians toward the extraction vehicle, her face a mask of fierce determination. "Come on, we can't stop now," she'd urged, urging the survivors forward. Just as the last civilian climbed aboard, a deafening explosion rocked the ground beneath them. A massive Nasat ship descended from the sky, its ominous silhouette blocking out the stars as it hovered above the battlefield. The sight sent a chill down Darren's spine. This was no ordinary assault. This was a declaration of war. "Get everyone out," he shouted, his voice rising above the din of chaos. "We'll hold them off as long as we can." Ellis looked back, fear etched across her features. "Darren, no. We need to get out of here." "I won't leave you," he yelled, determination igniting within him. "We'll find a way. Trust me." With a final nod, she turned to the extraction team, urging them to leave. The vehicle's engines roared to life as it lifted off the ground, the civilians inside staring wide-eyed at the battle raging below. As the ship ascended, Darren's heart raced. They had saved lives today, but at what cost? The Nasat ship loomed above, and he knew their fight was far from over. They would regroup, strategize, and hit back harder than ever before. This was only the beginning. As the shadows of the night deepened, Darren felt a surge of hope mingled with determination. They were humanity's last line of defense, and they would fight with every ounce of strength they had left. Together, they would rise against the darkness and reclaim their world. The Nasat would learn that humanity was not so easily extinguished. As dawn broke over the remnants of the city, casting a pale light on the devastation, Darren and his squad regrouped at a hidden base on the outskirts. The air was thick with smoke and the scent of burnt metal, a grim reminder of the previous night's battle. The atmosphere was heavy with uncertainty, yet it thrummed with a palpable sense of determination. Elise had organized a makeshift command center within the ruins of an abandoned factory. Maps and holographic displays illuminated the darkened interior, a chaotic blend of strategy and desperation. Survivors huddled together, their faces etched with fear and resolve, while the super soldiers stood vigilant, ready to defend their newfound home. Darren entered the command center, his heart pounding. He surveyed the room, taking in the faces of those who had survived the Nasat onslaught. Each one represented a flicker of hope, a reason to keep fighting. But he also felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He was now a leader of this fragile coalition. "Elise," he called, making his way to her side. She looked up from the holographic map, her brow furrowed in concentration. "What's the status?" "We're patching together a plan," she replied, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "We need to strike back quickly before the Nasat can regroup. They'll be searching for us after our escape last night." Darren nodded, the fire of determination igniting within him. "We need to gather intelligence on their movements. If we can pinpoint their next target, we might be able to sabotage their operations before they can execute their plans." A group of civilians, mostly men and women who had been scientists and engineers before the war, began to gather around. They were wary but eager, ready to contribute in any way they could. One man, a middle-aged engineer named Mark, stepped forward. "I can help with that. We've developed some surveillance drones that could give us eyes on Nasat movements." "Excellent," Darren replied, grateful for any resource they could muster. "Let's set them up immediately. We need to know what we're up against." As Mark and his team set to work, Darren turned to the rest of his squad. "We'll need to split into teams. One group will secure the perimeter, while the others assist with the drones. We also need to establish communication with other resistance groups. We can't fight this war alone." Ellis looked at him, admiration shining in her eyes. "I'll coordinate with the civilians to get everything in place. We'll need all hands on deck if we're going to turn the tide." Darren felt a surge of pride for Elise. She had proven herself as a capable leader in these dire circumstances. Together, they would find a way to rally their forces. The day passed in a flurry of activity, tension filling the air as the remnants of humanity prepared for the fight ahead. The survivors, once broken and afraid, began to show signs of resilience. Laughter mingled with cries of determination, and Darren could feel the spirit of hope igniting in their hearts. As night fell, Mark's team successfully launched the drones, sending them skyward to scout the Nasat encampments. The screens flickered to life with images of Nasat movements, troop transports, artillery units, and supply depots. Every detail was vital, and the information came pouring in like a lifeline. "Look here," Mark pointed to the main display as the drone captured footage of a massive Nasset convoy moving through the rubble of the city. They're transporting troops and weapons. If we can intercept this convoy, it could deal a significant blow to their forces. Darren leaned closer, formulating a plan. We'll set an ambush along their route. With our firepower and surprise on our side, we can take them out before they reach their destination. Ellis chimed in. I can lead a team of civilians to set up traps along the road. We need to keep the area secure while you engage the convoy. The squad began to strategize, poring over maps and gathering supplies. Each soldier and civilian played a vital role, their skills melding together like pieces of a puzzle. The spirit of cooperation infused the air, and for the first time since the Nasset invasion, Darren felt the tide turning. Remember, this isn't just about taking down a convoy, Darren reminded them, his voice resolute. It's about sending a message to the Nasset. Humanity will not go quietly into the night. We will fight back with everything we have. As they prepared for the mission, Darren took a moment to reflect on their situation. They were a ragtag group of survivors, thrust together by fate, yet united by a common purpose. Each person present had a story, a reason to fight, a loved one lost, a home destroyed, a future stolen. They would fight for each other, for their past, and for a future worth living. When the time came, they set out into the darkness, moving stealthily through the ruined streets. The convoy was due to pass through a narrow stretch of road, a perfect choke point for their ambush. As they took their positions, adrenaline coursed through Darren's veins, the weight of their mission pressing heavily on his shoulders. The night was eerily quiet, the only sounds being the distant rumble of engines and the rustling of the wind through the debris. Stay sharp, Darren whispered to his team as they waited in the shadows. We need to be ready for anything. Minutes turned into hours, the tension thickening as they anticipated the arrival of the convoy. Finally, the sound of engines grew louder, breaking the stillness of the night. A series of headlights pierced the darkness, illuminating the debris-strewn road ahead. Here they come, Elise hissed, her eyes alight with determination. Positions. As the convoy approached, Darren could feel his heart pounding in his chest. The Nasset soldiers, oblivious to the danger ahead, drove straight into their trap. Now, Darren shouted, and the ambush erupted into chaos. Plasma bolts flew through the air as they unleashed their firepower, targeting the lead vehicles with precision. Explosions lit up the night sky, and the sounds of chaos rang out as Nasset soldiers scrambled to respond. The ambush had taken them completely by surprise. Darren fought with fierce determination. Each shot fired a testament to the resilience of humanity. He could see the fear in the eyes of the Nasset soldiers as they realized they were outmatched. This was their moment. Push forward, he commanded, rallying his squad as they pressed the attack. We have to take out the rest of the convoy. With the element of surprise on their side, they surged forward, taking the fight to the Nasset. The battle was fierce, but their numbers began to dwindle as the Nasset fell to their superior tactics and determination. Amidst the chaos, Darren spotted a massive armored vehicle at the rear of the convoy, its gunner firing indiscriminately into the fray. We need to take that out, he yelled, pointing out to Elise. On it, she shouted, rallying a group of soldiers to follow her. Together, they flanked the armored vehicle, using the cover of debris to shield themselves from the gunner's fire. Darren's heart raced as they engaged the Nasset forces surrounding the vehicle, their movements synchronized like a well-oiled machine. The roar of battle surged around them, the chaos igniting a fire within him. This was what they had fought for, the chance to reclaim their world. With a final push, they closed in on the armored vehicle, their firepower overwhelming the defenders. As Elise expertly fired her plasma rifle, Darren felt a surge of pride watching her lead with courage. With one last coordinated effort, they managed to breach the armored vehicle. The gunner's startled expression morphed into fear as Darren and his squad swarmed inside. In moments, the Nasset soldier lay defeated, and the vehicle was theirs. Secure the area, Darren ordered, his heart racing with exhilaration. This is a major victory for us. As the last Nasat soldiers fell, cheers erupted among the survivors, a chorus of triumph that echoed through the night. They had dealt a significant blow to their enemy, reclaiming not just weapons and supplies but their dignity. But amidst the celebration, Darren felt the weight of their actions. This was just the beginning. The Nasat would not take this defeat lightly. They would regroup and retaliate, and their fight for survival was far from over. As dawn broke, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, Darren looked around at the faces of his comrades. They were weary but alive, a testament to the strength of humanity. Together, they would continue to fight, rising from the ashes of despair. Today, we've shown them what we're made of, Darren declared, his voice ringing with resolve. But this is only the first step. We'll regroup, strategize, and hit them harder. We are humanity, and we will not be extinguished. The sun rose higher, casting light on their makeshift victory. United by a shared purpose, they prepared for the battles to come. The fight for humanity's future had just begun. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the survivors began to process their victory from the ambush. The air was charged with a newfound energy, the thrill of success mingling with the harsh reality of their ongoing struggle. Darren and his team set to work, gathering the remnants of the destroyed Nasat convoy, collecting weapons, supplies, and anything else they could use in their fight against the alien invaders. Back at their base, the atmosphere buzzed with activity. Ellis coordinated efforts to assess the captured materials, while Mark and his engineering team began repurposing the Nasat technology. They were determined to turn the enemy's weapons against them. Darren stood by the command center's makeshift map, tracing routes and targets for their next operations. The victory was significant, but they could not afford to become complacent. He knew the Nasat would retaliate, and the best defense was a strong offense. Darren, Elise called, her voice cutting through his thoughts. She approached, a look of determination on her face. We need to capitalize on this momentum. Let's hit another Nasat target before they have time to regroup. Darren nodded, impressed by her resolve. You're right. We can't let them breathe. What do you have in mind? Ellis pointed to a location on the map, an abandoned military base that had been seized by the Nasat forces. They're using it to store supplies and reinforce their troops. If we can take it back, it'll provide us with a strategic advantage and vital resources. Darren considered the plan, weighing the risks and rewards. All right, let's gather our best fighters and prepare for a night raid. We'll need stealth and precision to minimize casualties. As they worked through the details, Darren felt a sense of unity growing among the survivors. They had begun to form a tight-knit community, bound together by shared struggles and victories. It wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about reclaiming their world and protecting each other. The day passed in a blur of preparation. Teams assembled, weapons were distributed, and plans were finalized. The energy in the base was infectious, and Darren couldn't help but feel a swell of hope. They were no longer just survivors, they were a resistance. As night fell, they set out under the cover of darkness, their faces determined and resolute. Darren led the way, his heart pounding with anticipation. Each step brought them closer to the military base, the shadows of the night enveloping them in secrecy. Upon reaching the perimeter, Darren signaled for the team to halt. He surveyed the area through his binoculars, noting the Nasat guards patrolling the outer walls and the faint glow of lights within the base. We need to eliminate the guards silently, he whispered. We can't alert the rest of their forces. Ellis nodded, motioning for a small group of soldiers to follow her. They crept forward, blending into the darkness, as Darren remained with the bulk of their team, ready to engage if things went awry. Moments later, the sound of muffled struggles filled the air as Elise and her team executed their stealthy takedown. The guards were no match for the trained fighters, and soon the perimeter was secure. Let's move, Darren whispered, feeling the adrenaline course through his veins. They slipped into the base, navigating through shadows and avoiding the beams of light sweeping across the grounds. Inside, the base was a maze of corridors and rooms, filled with crates of supplies and NASAT equipment. The sight ignited a fire in Darren's chest. This was the enemy's stronghold, and reclaiming it would be a significant blow to their operations. "Over here," one of the soldiers called, pointing to a room stacked high with crates. These looked like weapons and medical supplies. Darren's heart raced as he approached the crates. "We need to secure these. Mark, can you assess what we can use?" Mark quickly got to work, examining the contents and making notes. "We can definitely repurpose some of this for our defenses, and there are medical supplies here, enough to help our injured." While Mark worked, Darren led a few soldiers further into the base to gather intelligence. They needed to know how many NASAT forces were stationed there and what their operational plans entailed. As they crept down a dimly lit corridor, they overheard voices coming from a nearby room. "They'll never see it coming," a NASAT soldier boasted. "With our reinforcements, we'll crush any human resistance left in this sector." Darren exchanged glances with his team, the urgency of the situation pressing down on them. He carefully positioned himself at the door and peeked inside, his heart racing as he caught sight of a group of NASAT officers gathered around a holographic display, planning their next moves. "This is our chance," Darren whispered. "We need to take them out before they can alert the rest of the base." With a nod of agreement, they readied their weapons. Darren counted down silently, 3, 2, 1, and then kicked the door open, charging inside with his team. The NASAT officers turned in shock, but it was too late. The humans unleashed a hail of plasma fire, catching them off guard. The room erupted into chaos as the officers scrambled for cover. Darren fought fiercely, targeting each NASAT soldier with precision. His heart raced with exhilaration as he felt the tide of battle shifting in their favor. "Push forward," he yelled, rallying his team. They engaged the enemy with a ferocity fueled by the urgency of their mission. Each victory felt like a step closer to reclaiming their world, a testament to their strength and resilience. As the last NASAT officer fell, Darren took a deep breath, surveying the room. "We need to gather any intelligence they have," he ordered, turning his attention to the holographic display. Mark entered behind him, glancing at the data flashing on the screen. "This looks like operational plans for the entire sector," he said, his voice filled with awe. "If we can get this back to base, it could change everything." Darren quickly downloaded the information onto a portable device, knowing that this could be the key to turning the tide of the war. "Let's get out of here before reinforcements arrive." They retraced their steps, moving quickly but cautiously. The excitement of their victory pulsed through the group, but Darren remained acutely aware of the danger still lurking in the shadows. As they exited the base, the sounds of distant engines began to grow louder, and the urgency of their escape intensified. "We need to move, now," Darren urged, leading the charge back to their extraction point. They sprinted through the night, adrenaline propelling them forward as the roar of NASAT reinforcements filled the air. Just as they reached the edge of the base, blast of fire erupted behind them, illuminating the darkness with bursts of blue light. "Go, go," Darren shouted, pushing his team forward as they darted into the cover of the trees. They could hear the NASAT soldiers behind them, their shouts growing closer as the urgency of the situation became apparent. With every ounce of strength they had left, they raced toward their rendezvous point, the sounds of the NASAT forces pursuing them echoing in their ears. They emerged from the trees into a clearing, where a small transport ship awaited them, engines humming with life. "Get in, hurry," Elise yelled, ushering everyone aboard as Darren took up a defensive position at the rear, prepared to cover their escape. The ship's engines roared to life, and as the last soldiers scrambled aboard, Darren turned to fire at the approaching NASAT troops. Plasma bolts flew past him, but he held his ground, determined to protect his team. "Darren, come on," Elise shouted, urgency lacing her voice. With one last shot fired, he turned and leaped into the ship, the doors sealing shut behind him just as the Nasat soldiers reached the clearing. The ship shot into the sky, leaving the chaos of the base behind. As they soared higher, the adrenaline began to fade, replaced by exhaustion and relief. Darren slumped into a seat, his heart racing as he processed what they had just accomplished. They had not only reclaimed valuable resources, but also dealt a significant blow to the Nasat's plans. Darren couldn't help but smile, the exhilaration of victory flooding his senses. "This is just the beginning," he replied, his voice steady. "We have the intelligence we need, and we've shown the Nasat that we will fight back." As the transport ship soared through the night sky, the group began to discuss their next steps. The data from the military base was crucial, and they needed to analyze it thoroughly to determine their best course of action. Mark stood up, excitement palpable in his voice. "With this information, we can identify the Nasat's supply routes and potential weak points in their defenses. We can hit them where it hurts." Darren nodded, the wheels in his mind already turning. "We'll regroup at the base, analyze the data, and develop a new plan. We need to keep the pressure on them while we still have the momentum." The ship touched down at their base, and as they disembarked, a wave of camaraderie washed over the group. They were no longer just survivors, they were warriors fighting for their future. The atmosphere was electric as they gathered in the command center to examine the data. Mark set up the holographic display, projecting the information gathered from the military base. "Look here," he pointed to the maps and data. "These are their supply routes, and this section indicates their troop movements. We can use this to plan our next strikes." Darren felt a surge of determination as he studied the hologram. They had the information they needed, and with it, they could turn the tide in their favor. The fight was far from over, but they had proven they could stand up against the Nasat. The air buzzed with anticipation as they discussed their next move. Each member of the team brought ideas to the table, fueled by their recent success and the desire to protect their home. Darren felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, but he also felt a profound sense of hope. Together, they would push back against the invaders and reclaim their world. As the discussions continued, Darren couldn't help but glance at Elise, who was deep in thought, her brow furrowed in concentration. He knew that with her by his side, they could overcome any obstacle. "Let's take the fight to them," Darren declared, his voice strong and resolute. "The Nasat may have thought they could conquer us, but we will show them the true strength of humanity. We will reclaim our planet, and we will fight until the very end." Cheers erupted from the team, a chorus of defiance against the encroaching darkness. The tide had shifted, and as they prepared for the battles ahead, they were fueled by a fire that burned brighter than ever before. Together, they would rise against the Nasat and forge their path to victory, united by hope, resilience, and an unwavering belief in the strength of humanity. As dawn broke over the horizon, casting golden light across the base, Darren gathered his team for a crucial meeting. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation. Their recent victory had sparked a fierce determination among the survivors. They knew that the time had come to take the fight to the Nasat and disrupt their operations once and for all. Darren stood before the assembled group, his heart pounding with purpose. "We have valuable intelligence from the military base. Our next target is a Nasat supply depot just outside the city. If we can destroy it, we'll cripple their resources and gain a significant advantage." Elise stepped forward, her eyes gleaming with resolve. "We need to strike quickly and efficiently. We can use the cover of darkness to minimize casualties and maximize our chances of success." Mark nodded, glancing at the holographic map projected on the wall. "I've identified a route that avoids major patrols. We can approach from the north and use the element of surprise to our advantage." Darren could feel the excitement building among the team. "Let's break into smaller squads. We'll need to coordinate our efforts to ensure everyone gets in and out safely." The group buzzed with energy as they divided into teams, each member eager to contribute to the mission. They prepared their weapons, packed supplies, and reviewed the plan. The spirit of unity and resilience was palpable. They were no longer just fighting for survival, they were fighting for each other, for their home. As night fell, they gathered once more, their faces illuminated by the glow of the campfire. Each person shared their thoughts and motivations, forging an even deeper bond among the group. Darren felt a sense of pride wash over him. They were ready and the storm was brewing. With one last look at the stars above, he led his team out into the night, their hearts united in the pursuit of freedom and hope. Together, they would face the Nasat and show them that humanity would not back down. The time for vengeance had come, and the tide of battle would turn in their favor.